Hi, everybody, and welcome back to King Pa Myers. I'm Ariadna.
And I'm Dylan.
And we're back in our last month of the season. Can you believe it?
Oh, it's so warm outside right now.
It's getting to be very warm, isn't it?
This heat.
I know, right?
I do love all this greenery.
Exactly. Oh, the spring has sprung, basically. Goodness gracious. If you've been following us through season 1, thank you very much. First of all, that means so much to us. So much. And if you've been following us through season 2, you know perfectly it's Tuesday. And this Tuesday we have KPM Supernatural with Sam So Spooky, of course. You already heard her talking about the green trees apparently outside.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, guys.
How's it going?
It's good. I'm just enjoying this lovely spring day.
I know, right? I think we all needed it after that, rough winter apparently. So we have something special planned for the last 2 episodes, don't we? What do we have?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? I'm pretty sure we should know by now.
Are we telling spooky tales? Only real life spooky tales?
Indeed we are.
I'm excited.
All right. We'll be sharing a little bit of our supernatural paranormal moments.
First-hand encounters.
Exactly.
Only from... These aren't stories, folks. These are things that have happened to us. The reason why we're so fucked up.
This is an eyewitness account.
Exactly.
Though for many of mine, the eyewitnesses told me them because I will be telling stories that my grandparents told me. And they were not into the whole paranormal thing, but they were just old school conservative people. And they just had some very weird things happen. And they're like, I don't know.
See, I don't know why, but every time I find out that somebody is like either conservative, Republican, super religious, like anything along those lines, they're a very logical, skeptical brain. And then they tell you, like, I had this experience. I'm like, I already believe you. Tell me what it is.
I do. And once again, I do agree. And I think the best thing about these kind of episodes is that people have been like asking us for a while to like, let's hear your stories. And we had a little bit of an inner, what's it called? Like,
conflict. Dilemma.
Sure. No. Sorry.
Debate. Conversation.
A ghost. A ghost. No, we dived in a little bit last month in April because we talked about witchcraft last episode. And we talked a lot more about who we are as people and what we believe in and things like that. And the one before that was spirits and traditions, stuff like that. So they already got a little bit of a peek. And now, a lot more apparently.
And I heard some of my sleep paralysis stories too.
Exactly. So yeah, so there you go. So when we're gonna start just ease it in like we did the first episode of the season for KPM Supernatural, and ease it in with a couple of questions, and then we're gonna dive into storytelling.
Okay.
All right. My first question for y'all is: if you were a ghost, who and where would you haunt? Ooh.
See, I want to tell you that I would go where I want to go, but I have this wild theory that because of everything I've experienced with my childhood home and still kind of experience to this day, I have this weird feeling that I might die and wake up in my childhood home. Like some Haunting of Hill House shit. Like I'll just be trapped in my childhood home.
I'm kind of the same. I think I would probably haunt my now current home, but before my grandparents' home where I grew up. I was very close with them, and yeah, I feel like I could, like you said, just wake up here. And
where would you want to go if you could just go haunt any person or anything?
Some big, sexy New England manor or some castle in Europe, like something fun.
If I could go where I wanted to, I would be that ghost that like fucks with people. Or I'd go hang out in a witch shop, and I would purposely there'd be like the witch at the counter, and they'd be like, seriously, can you just not? Like they'd be warding the place, and I'd be outside the shop like, let me in. I found this really good.
I feel like I would be doing, you remind me of the scene from Hocus Pocus, obviously, but when he lit the black candle like just be the ghost that'll be like haunting a place like that, or just like effing around with them a little bit,
Yeah.
or something like that. That actually sounds fun.
Maybe definitely a graveyard.
But
Oh.
you'd be bored because there'd be nobody there.
True. I feel like you end up being a messenger maybe in a graveyard, because you'll be able to talk to like the other people who are, you know, deceased, but then you can maybe like send a message to people who are visiting those deceased people.
I just hope you have the option of travel, because like if you like die like at a convenience store, it's like, wait, I have to haunt a convenience store. Ha ha ha! Your Coke is slightly warm. Ha 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 ha! Like, this sucks.
I guess it depends on how you die in that place. Because, like, that's usually why places end up haunted, is because somebody has, like, a weird or tragic death, and now they're stuck in that place, haunting that place. It's where, like, you know, the lore comes from. They're like, oh, this happened, and now this place is haunted.
Yes. Well, like you and me said, we have strong connections with our ancestral homes, so our spirits would go back there, which I'm cool with.
That's very interesting. Because you both have that deep connection. That's what we're going to be talking about a whole lot in this episode. And it's a two-parter, by the way. If I didn't say that before, it's a two-parter. Oh my goodness.
But
other than that, because I have no connection to anything of my family home, or I've never really had a family home. Why do I act surprised? I do not know. No, I don't. I don't. I moved around so many times that didn't really exist in my family. So mine would just be all over the place. I feel like I would end up.
You could be attached to a person, maybe.
Ah.
You don't have to haunt a place.
What, my future kids?
I am with you forever.
Exactly.
That's the worst. Ugh.
My future kids.
Well,
maybe
it depends on your relationship with your parents.
I would hope it will be good with me and my future kids. This is a note to future Ariadna to be really, really a nice mother and kind and caring and
if
all of the above.
It's not gonna happen, but if like you go before me, I'm just gonna get a spirit of Ariadna. Like, why are your socks on the ground? Like, fuck off, ghost. I put my socks where I want.
Oh my gosh. I'm always complaining about him leaving his socks everywhere. Hence
I get it.
Yeah. Like, it's just
I
so
also
common.
live with a man.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like everyone who just heard that's like, yes, Ariadna, yes, we agree. We can all haunt our ex-husbands. Our husbands? Our deceased
The
husbands?
socks you leave on the floor, her ghost is going to pick up and throw at you.
There you go.
I can see that.
I can see that too.
Easily.
That, like, random stuff.
She's going to be Ariana the poltergeist.
Yep. I will be with you forever.
All of a sudden, the broom in the kitchen starts moving back and forth really angrily.
Exactly.
I was gonna get to it.
Oh my god, we joke around glasses so many times. I would literally put your glasses in the glasses case and you'll be like trying to look for them. You're like, where are they? Because he never leaves them in the glasses case and you're supposed to take care of them. Stuff like that. Just tough with you. I like this. I like this answer a lot. And before we start, of course, one more would be,
yes.
Have you ever felt you knew a ghost that you saw? Like a grandparent or the relative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, because I don't believe I've ever seen anything. The things that I've experienced have all been in my dreams.
Okay.
Which I'll get to.
Which we'll get to.
You know what's crazy is you might have seen a ghost and you did know them, you just didn't remember because they could have been someone from your past life.
Exactly.
So sorry, but I have to bring up that very quick scene from the greatest television horror show of all time, The Haunting of Hill House.
Of course.
My all-time favorite.
Yes.
My favorite scene in that entire series, though this series is completely amazing. I highly recommend anyone to watch it who hasn't. If you've watched it, rewatch it.
And then rewatch it again.
When the father has the son a talk with his oldest son, and he's like, "You saw a ghost," and he's like, "No, I didn't." He's like,
"I love that conversation." Oh,
there was no one working on that clock, and no one with old overalls and a handlebar mustache.
The delivery in that monologue was
I have watched
Beautiful.
that monologue so many times because it's the character finally, after 30 years, saying, "Okay, motherfuckers, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
You think I'm crazy, but this is what's going on." Oh, I watched that monologue after we're done filming. It makes me so happy.
Good. Love that freaking show.
So much passion.
So much.
So much passion. Are we ready to dive into some stories?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're definitely going to start off with Mr. Dylan.
Okay.
Okay.
So once
Spook
again,
me, Dylan.
so my stories, as I've said, are from my grandparents. I have had relationships with both my mom's parents and my dad's parents, so I'm pretty close with both of them. Now, my dad's mom told me the story, and once again, the woman has nothing to gain from lying. She's a very blunt human being. She just kind of says what's on her mind. So when Nana says something, it's like, okay, Nana. Not appeasing her, it's like, okay, this is what happened. But essentially what happened was she was out shopping with her sister, and they were both in their maybe in their 50s, 60s at the time, 50s. Her sister had heart issues or whatever, and they're walking on the store, they're shopping, and suddenly she collapses. Her sister. And my Nana is freaking out. They're trying to get medical attention. This is in, I think, the early 90s, late 80s. So back in those days, everyone had a cell phone. So they're trying to get the manager. They're trying to call. Now, to be fair, I do not know if it was a heart attack or a stroke, but she was incapacitated. She was collapsed. She was in horrible, horrible pain. And unfortunately, she passed away shortly thereafter. I think she died on the way to the hospital. It was very sudden.
Holy smokes.
Okay, for a minute I thought you were going to say in the grocery store, and I was going to be like, oh my God, that's why you have that fear of haunting a convenience store.
Oh my God, that actually does make sense. That was very spot on.
Before she lost consciousness and the EMTs got there and took her away, once again, she passed away, I believe, on the ride to the hospital. My Nana was kneeling down with her, and she had her, and they were both holding hands. And I think they were my Nana was trying to talk to her and, trying to keep her conscious or whatever. And she's and all of a sudden her eyes go wide and she's looking behind me. And she's and she turns around and she's looking at the corner of the store. And my Nana's what's wrong? What are you looking at? And her eyes are wide. And she's like, oh my God, what is that? And then she loses consciousness.
Oh my God. Oh no. That's not a good reaction. Most people are oh, I see my mother or my father. But to go, oh my God, what is that? And then die. That's terrifying.
That story has been passed around in my family, and Ari's best friend and my cousin, who is the ultimate skeptic, the ultimate woman of science, as a teenager was that shook me to my core. What did she see? I need to know.
I mean, to be fair, even in the world of skeptics, any nurse or doctor who works in a hospital will tell you similar stories.
Yes.
People die.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel.
Was it an angel and she was just so shocked? Was it the Reaper?
Was it the Reaper?
Was it?
I mean, they usually say that. I mean, usually your loved ones come to collect you when you die.
Yeah.
But every now and again, especially if you did something bad, something else will come to collect you. I heard a similar story once of a guy who was died in terror because he saw something crazy in his hospital room. I can't imagine.
Especially I was gonna say something similar to what you said. It depends on what she did in her lifetime.
Maybe your Nana's sister had a secret that she didn't tell nobody.
That's the thing. It's you're related to her, of course, but it's not like you know her life story because at the end of the day, you're Nana's sister.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Maybe she made a deal 10 years before that day.
Time to collect.
Exactly. That does remind me. Oh, goodness gracious.
Was your Nana's sister successful in any way? Suspiciously?
I don't know. That reminded me, I think, of an episode of Sabrina, but we haven't seen it in such a long time that I don't remember. But it's an episode of something or other that's like time to collect, and you collect like the souls and things like that.
Yeah.
And you exchange one souls from another one, without a doubt. Okay, that's an interesting first story we got there. All right, to mix it up a little bit, we're gonna hear more about Sam and your basement, because why they have not, basically.
So, my stories all typically revolve around my childhood home. To paint you a picture, because that's what I'm going to start off by doing before I get in my stories, is I'm going to paint you a picture.
Because you're an artist at the end of the day.
And really the location and the way things were set up really set the tone for my trauma. So, I grew up on Whidbey Island in Washington State. That's right, I grew up on an island. I grew up on the northern end, close to Deception Pass Bridge. It's basically the town of Oak Harbor, but I was more towards the bridge, so on the outskirts of town. My family has a very large piece of property there, about 36 acres, and you have my great-great-grandparents' house on it, which my great-grandparents lived in, and then my grandparents, and so on and so forth. And then right next to their house is the store called Soundview Shopper, which my grandparents built, and they attached their house to the back of the store. And that's where my mom grew up. And then further down the property, you have the house I grew up in. So we're mostly surrounded by forest. There's no immediate neighbors to our house. There's a neighbor across the road on the other side, and then there's one even further up a field on the other side. I'm right next to the highway, so other than that, no immediate neighbors. Like trick-or-treaters did not come to our house. The ice cream man did not come to our house. It wasn't a thing. But the house itself was added onto by my parents. It wasn't a very big house, but basically it was a fairly small house, but the way the basement was set up is like a fucking horror movie, like a nightmare. And I'm gonna describe it to you. So let's say you're walking out of the kitchen, you're going into the basement, so you open the door. What it does is it goes down like 2-3 steps, and then on your left-hand side is going to be a very thick metal door. And on the other, there's a window in it and a screen door on the other side, and that goes out to the backyard. So there's a door in the backyard that goes directly into the basement. Keep this in mind. It will be noted again later. All right. So now you turn to your right. You're going to continue going down into the basement. It's a long stairwell from here. It's got those old kind of 90s brown plastic plywood, whatever it was, on the walls down the way. It's not real. It's fake, you know? On the fucking second step down, there is a hole in the wall on the floor. So, of course, any child might think, oh, if I step down, something's going to reach out and grab my foot. And when we were little, my sister and I used to be able to get down and crawl into that hole. And basically, if you crawl in, you're going to be on the top shelf of the laundry room. So you can look down at like mom and dad while they're doing the laundry. You're basically up by the light bulb. That's also very creepy for anyone who's down there. So, anyways, you continue down the stairs. By the way, there's no light switch at the top of these stairs. They're not at the top of the stairs. The light switch is at the bottom of the stairs.
Of course they are.
We continue going down to the bottom. Now, you're wondering, where's the very first light you're going to turn on in this room? All right. You're in a big open room. It's dark. And across the room is a bar. To your left is another room because it's open, it's connected, but it's raised up a little bit on the left-hand side. There's one small ground level window. So if it's daytime, there's a little bit of light coming in. And to your right goes into the laundry room. But the first light you're going to turn on is right in front of you. It's against the wall. And it's a little fluorescent bulb about this big, maybe a foot. And you're just going to flip the little switch and you're going to get about 3 feet of light. All right, we got a little light coming. Now you want to turn on the main light. Where's the main light, you ask? Well, if you look to your left towards the darkness of the room, on your left-hand side is going to be a big, thick-ass wooden door. All right, and that door goes to the furnace room. The light switch is on the other side of that door. So if you turn on the light there, you'll have the room illuminated again. You'll see the raised level, the main room. There's a bar there. Now, let's say you continue past the fluorescent bulb. You turn right at the end of the stairs to start going into the laundry room. Now, you're facing that way. You're going to see directly in front of you, about a foot off the ground, another big, thick-ass wooden door. And to your right of that door is the laundry room itself. And guess what light is in the laundry room? You remember those old single bulbs with a string pull that
Yep.
that? That's your light. You're gonna walk into the middle of there and you're gonna turn on that one light
That's the
bulb.
light that we have in the basement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
it's
in
awesome.
the attic as well.
Old school.
So those lights are meant for horror movies. And for some reason, this right above the washer dryer, in the wall that the door is set in, is one of those ground level windows that peers into that garage, but it's pitch black because there's no windows in that room. Like the garage part itself is all cement and 2 garage doors. There's no windows. So just a little light peering into a pitch black, or a little window peering into a pitch black room, right? And to the left of the door is a really big open shower. It's not very important, but it just noted that there's lots of corners everywhere.
Shower.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like a built-in kind of shower down there. I
Okay.
don't know.
Did anyone ever shower in the basement of hell?
My father did. My father actually lived down there for a period of time, which again, kind of adds to the horror a little bit. Anyways,
Okay.
let's say
Alrighty then.
you want to go into that garage, and we didn't call it the garage. We called it the family room, which ended up being a horrible name later on.
You- It's a really horrible name calling a garage a family room.
Well, the reason why we ended up calling it the family room is because my father eventually built a separate garage on the side of the house. So we didn't ever even use it for cars. It just kind of
Okay.
became like a room where, like, if we had a bunch of guests over for a party, you would open up the garage doors because it would go under the deck. Like we have a giant
Okay.
deck outside, and the garage doors would go under the deck and then out to outside.
That kind of
So-
makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah. So you open the wooden door, you're going into this garage, the family room, and it's pitch black. It's a huge room. And where is the light in this room, you ask? Oh, it's in the very middle of the room. And what kind of light is it? Another bulb with a string pull. And that about said, oh, one more thing about our basement. Let's say you went into the furnace room, right? The furnace room is set up with, like, you walk in and there's 2 kind of brick pillars, and on the far side to your right is the switch for the fuse box. But if you keep going forward, there's going to be a hole in the wall to the left that goes under the stairs. Yeah.
This is like a serial killer's lair.
No offense.
And you can imagine, knowing the layout of the basement just made having the house be haunted so much worse.
I can see why.
My mother and I used to actually, when I was really young, we would get into fights because my mother would tell me that I needed to be a big girl or be an adult and go down there by myself to do laundry. And I refused to go down there. I was like, I don't go down there by myself. If I go down there with anyone, it's going to be you or it's going to be Amy. And even then, me and Amy don't always want to go together either. Amy's my younger sister, for by the way. So, and we used to do that thing where if we were down there together, because the light switch is on the opposite side of that door, when you would have to turn off the light, obviously you want to get the fuck out of there. So one of you starts running up the stairs, right? But the person behind you, right, wants to get out faster. So let's say Amy took off ahead of me. Then what I would do is I'd run behind her saying, go, 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 they're gonna get you, they're gonna get you, to make her run faster so I can get out of there.
And that, my folks, is what a big sister's all about.
Yeah, well, she did the same thing to me. It's just whoever turns off the light switch, the other person's basically got a head start to not die. And then, of course, as you're running up the stairs, you got to avoid the hole. You got to hold it.
Yeah, I was gonna say the hole is pretty interesting since the moment you said it, because I thought it was like a hole, like a regular hole, but the fact that you're able to, that's a hole that's so big that you're able to crawl in.
Yeah, think of it, it's like a square hole.
Oh, okay.
It'd be like if there was a panel there that you removed off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, was it a dirt floor?
No, the floor was concrete.
Okay.
And minus the raised part on the bottom left-hand side by the little window. That part was wood.
And I'm assuming it's kind of like very old-fashioned. Like it's nothing, once again, modern. There's no furniture that's new, basically. Like all the furniture there's dusty, old kind of sort of feel.
There used to be furniture and carpet at the very beginning of my childhood. There was like a red shag carpet and an old brown TV that sat on the floor that you had to, push and pull to change the channel.
To make things
really dating myself here, but yeah, very old 90s TV, had the bunny antennas, and then like a couple couches. But like after my father left, there was nothing else down there, so it just like kind of became a very empty and dark. We didn't really store anything down there either because we didn't have a lot. My sister and I a couple times tried to make it less scary by turning it into a clubhouse. Like we would draw pictures on like color pictures and then tape them to the wall. But then we had some very creepy experiences that ruined that. So.
Little like happy pictures, and they were corrupted.
Oh my God. I just occurred to me that I was basically Luke in the treehouse. Oh my God.
From where?
Oh my God.
In the treehouse?
And the Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House. Oh.
I was basically Luke in the treehouse. Oh my God.
You were Luke in the treehouse. Yeah.
But you weren't really in the treehouse now, were you?
I was in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you
Oh dear God. Okay, so
all right. So now that we have the basement floor plan,
I've painted the picture. I've set the tone.
Okay. Can you paint this as a picture?
I probably could, yeah. This I see clearly enough that I could paint it. And I also probably I have old photographs, which now that I think about it, if you guys or the viewers are interested,
yes,
yes, make a post at my house.
Yes.
You just scared our listeners right there with that very powerful yes.
Yes.
I do have to warn though that if I post pictures of the basement, they're probably going to be the older, because we didn't really take pictures in the later years for obvious reasons. But like the very early pictures of when my parents were still together and my father was kind of down there, like it was his kind of man cave, and then it kind of became where he lived before they split up. My father, the way he decorated, there's no easy way to say this. The walls were covered in porn.
There is no easy way of saying. I thought you were going to say about like animals and very like hunter. That's the first thing. No porn.
No porn. And then lots of Navy
the
show
and see what happens.
Navy. So if it wasn't porn, it was like Navy stuff, maybe a movie poster or two, but yeah.
Okay, but we could always have like the outline of like what's it called, like a blueprint of
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
what's not
I mean, I'll
painting
try to
but
find pictures that don't
drawing.
really show that, but again, like kind of need older pictures to set the tone.
Exactly.
Ghosts, basements, and Playboy or Penthouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay.
I was thinking of the basement that we have because right now we're currently in your grandparents' house.
Yes.
We said
Yes.
not your great grandfather. No,
No.
your grandfather's only.
Yes.
And this house has been in your family for
I must probably say late 70s, early 80s.
yeah, exactly. So not technically that long, but about 40 years, I want to say. And yeah, the basement is a mess. But they have like all the lights in the basement and the attic, like I said before, have the typical light, like the light
I
that you
see
were
those
explaining.
lights now, and I'm immediately like horror movie.
Yeah,
Horror
exactly.
movie.
And they're in the middle of the basement.
Why did they do that to us? Why did they put those lights in the middle of the rooms?
I don't understand. They don't light up anything. And it's
They
really
don't.
dark out there. I mean,
Yeah.
out there, down there.
Fun fact for all you Gen Z listeners, those lights did not light up the whole room. They give you
No.
a very faint yellow. Think of the night shift mode on your iPhone, and that was the room.
There you go.
God damn it.
That's exactly it though. We have our Binks, of course, a little kitty. And that's where his food is and his litter is and things like that. And it's literally right next to a light. So yeah, it does not help at all. But we go there at least twice a day, obviously, to check on him and his food and water and stuff like that. It's like we're very aware of the basement. Understand, yes, to some extent. And I know it's not only a New England home because you lived in Washington, obviously, so it's a typical thing for like 70s
Yeah.
homes and before to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Well, here's the weird thing. It gets weirder. My
Ow.
house my house wasn't that old. I don't think it was built in the 70s even. It wasn't that old when my parents got it and added onto it. The crazy thing too is we saw the ghosts, like we had a general idea of who was in the house, but I mean we didn't know who they were. And when I asked my mom about it, I was like, "Hey mom, did you like ever look into the property or like the house before or what was going on this land before?" And she was like, "There's nothing. There's no history of a tragedy. There's no burial ground. There's no record of another family." But there's the crazy thing is she said that and then she goes, "But I did notice that the people before us seemed like they wanted to get out in a hurry."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And going back to this house, I mean, you guys had it in the late 70s, early 80s tops,
Yes.
but when was it built?
Of I want to say maybe I want to say 60s.
60s.
I
Like
could be
it's
wrong.
not, yeah, it's not
Wait, no.
super old. It's not, this house isn't super old, is it?
No, because in a very random fact, the house that we're in now is my mother's parents' home. My dad's father, after he was in the Navy, he built homes for a while. And in this town, and we went around certain neighborhoods, he's like, I built that house, I built that house, I built that house. He didn't build this house, but he's like, they're all the same, they're all the same design. So maybe 50s, 60s, yeah.
Okay. Once
Okay.
again, it's not like 100 years old, as I'm trying to say. So like people can visualize that. It's not a super old house by any means, but it's old enough to have a whole lot of history, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. Much like yours. It's not like, hundreds of years old, but
Yeah.
enough to have something, apparently.
And we do, like, I know for people our age, we keep forgetting too that it's been 20 years since the year 2000 alone. Like, to me, the
Enough
year
with your
2000,
lies, Sam.
right? It feels like a couple years ago, but then
I'm
when
sick of your
someone's like,
lies.
20 years ago, what?
Yeah, he thinks the 90s were 10 years ago, and I'm like, hun, Hun.
2005 was yesterday. What are you talking about?
Exactly. So that's why even when they moved here 40 years ago ish, that's still not a long time ago
Yeah.
for everything that happened in this house, which is quite a bit.
Mm.
All the moves and changes and whatnot. Holy moly. Well, then again, I guess a lot could happen in 40 years, but still, it's not like hundreds of years back. So now that we have the setup once again, how do we start your story? Where does your story start?
So I could start my story in so many different places, but I feel like a great place to start would be when my mother finally confirmed that we had ghosts, because that's
Oh.
a fun story.
Let's
Okay.
start there.
So we'd been experiencing things for a while, and at this point in our lives, my father was out of the picture. So it was literally my mom, single mom, raising two daughters in this house on the outskirts of town with no immediate neighbors. Okay, there's nobody else around. But we'd been experiencing some odd things for a while, and then my mom, she's so funny. So funny. I think my mother was also clairaudient, and I think that's where I get it from. And I don't think, maybe she knew, maybe she didn't, but like 5 feet in front of the TV, she can't hear it at normal volume, but she can hear the ghosts whispering out in the damn living room. So anyways, my sister and I were too scared to sleep in our own rooms, and we would sleep in my mother's room, and her room used to be the old living room. So it's a very big room. It's got two very big, I keep moving my hands to gesture like people can see me. I'm so sorry, audience. You're in a big room, kind of living room size, and there's two big double wide windows on each wall. And her bed was a king size bed, so it could fit her, me, and my sister. And then the door was an extra large door frame. And basically what we would do is when we would go to bed at night, we would leave adjacent, like diagonal across from her door in the hallway was the bathroom. So we would leave the bathroom light on as like a night light, and it would kind of pour into the room a little bit. And then let's say you were sitting in the bed and you look to your right and you're looking out the door, you can see through the kitchen into like a snippet of the dining room. And then like from there onward, it would be the living room out of your view. Because it's like a counter, and then you would see like the dining room table. But basically one night, me and Amy were laying in bed, and all of a sudden my mother throws her blanket off of her. She's angry. She jumps up out of bed. She starts stomping through the room, through the kitchen, and we had right in the dining room on that wall there, we had one of those old-fashioned lights where you would press it to turn it on, and then you could turn the knob to
We have those too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we do.
The tone. What's the word I'm looking for? You're not set the tone, but adjust the
Dimmer.
Yeah. So she stomps in there, she slams that button on, and she starts yelling at the living room. She goes, "Get the fuck out of my house. I am sick and tired of your shit. You are scaring me, you are scaring my girls, and I am over it. Get the fuck out." And my mom pointed to our front door, and me and Amy are in bed wondering what the hell is going on. We're terrified. We're like almost in tears. We can see just our moms huffing and puffing. And she, from where we're sitting, you could see her turn her head as she's super angry, like she's watching someone leave. Then she slams the light off and she stomps back into the bedroom, and me and Amy are in the bed, and we're like, and my mom crawls in bed, throws the blanket over herself, and she goes, "Girls, we have ghosts." And I remember a few minutes later after that, she said to us, "I can hear them talking outside the front door. The little girl just said, Daddy, I don't want to go." Because it was a family. It was a mom, a dad, and two little girls, which is pretty convenient, pretty similar, right?
Yeah.
Keep that noted because I'm going to mention something about that later. But what the ghosts ended up doing is they didn't leave. And this is where that door to the basement, remember the one from the backyard that I told you guys to remember?
Mhm.
Our ghosts walked around to the back of the house, through the back door into the basement, and in the basement is where they pretty much resided the rest of the time we lived there. Yeah.
We're just like,
Yeah.
okay. Also, I wish our audience can see us, but we're like raising our hands up in the air. We're like,
What the
okay.
It's not to say that there still weren't things that happened upstairs, but it was
Okay,
kind of
okay.
like,
So, my first really quick question is: up to now, they were living upstairs, doing a whole bunch of stuff.
not even. It was just like things were happening around the house, like all throughout the house. But now things have switched and they're staying in the basement more. They didn't leave the house entirely. So like there's still a few things that happen upstairs, but it's not so much the parents anymore. It was there because like I said, there's two little girls, and one of the youngest girls was more playful. And I mean, there's two other alive kids in the house, so she wants to play with us. So she was the most prominent spirit of all of them.
And did you see her?
Yeah, I saw her.
What you
Oh,
look
you
like?
want me to talk about that?
No, I thought that's really, really cool though.
Yeah, she wore like an old blue nightgown, and she had long blonde hair, and she looked pretty close to my younger sister's age. And then also there was an older girl who had long brown hair and a white nightgown. And it's pretty weird because that's pretty similar to my sister and I. I'm the oldest, I have long brown hair. Amy's the youngest. Amy has blonde hair.
For a second there, you remind me of two things. One, I'm like, could they be ghost of your future? Kind of sort of deal, like future you?
So, not the future, but I do have a pretty wild and crazy theory. And I've only ever told my best friend this. I haven't told anybody else. So, audience, you guys, exclusive.
KPM fam exclusive.
I mentioned being very in tune with the spiritual world in a different episode, being very sensitive, having my psychic dream abilities. But when we talked in the very first episode about ghosts and different types of ghosts, we mentioned poltergeists. And I mentioned a case where the guy went to investigate the poltergeist and found out that it was actually the teenage daughter who her emotions were manifesting psychically and creating the poltergeist. So I had an epiphany. This was maybe a year or two ago that I had this epiphany that there is a possibility that because of the trauma and other things I experienced as a kid, that as I was becoming older, was psychically manifesting the spirits in my home, which blows my fucking mind. It would make sense why it would be a mom and dad and two little girls.
It
who
makes
look
perfect
exactly
sense.
like
Yeah,
my
it really
sister.
does.
But at the same time, they felt so separate. Like I even had a psychic dream about them when we left the house. It was so weird. You want me to tell you the dream?
Yes.
Yes, but before I was gonna say, it does feel like you're definitely connected. And because I know you a bit more, obviously, because we're friends and I know more about your past as you know more about mine, obviously. I feel like I'm connecting stuff that you've told me plus this story, and you're like, well, it make it like it's like a puzzle piece. It comes together.
Yeah.
Because also as a spiritual person, as a witch myself and things like that, I know that you manifest things or you create these things, and not that you're lying or like they make believe by any way, shape, or form. Literally, it's just you're so sensitive to all this because similar things have happened to me too in that kind of realm, and you're like, oh, I see the connection. So yes, now definitely the dream. Yes, the dream.
So the very last night, and before I even tell you guys the dream, again, the whole me creating the spirits is just a working theory because so many other people came through our house and had experiences even when I wasn't there. of course, my mom mentioning the people rushing out who lived there before, and then of course the final dream. So there are indicators that it could have been a separate family just like ours.
That's the name of your last book, The Final Dream.
Yes. So even as a kid, I was having psychic dreams, and I did tell my mother about this dream, because we had to move out of our house when I was 13. I had just turned 13, and we were moving out of the house. And the very last night that
13, I swear.
right, the number 13, of course.
Yeah, and yeah, because I also had a traumatic / incredible experience at 13. So yes, but please continue. Sorry.
So the very last night that we stayed in the house, I had this dream that there was like a party going on of my mom's, and I was standing on the deck of our house, which the deck is on, if you're facing the front of the house, the deck is on the far left side, and there's a short, like 5 steps to go up from the front yard, and then if you go up those steps and you're on the deck, it's a long stairwell to get to the backyard. Like it goes further down in the backyard. So I'm standing at the top facing the backyard, and at the bottom of the long stairs is the dad, the spirit dad in the house. And what he's doing is he's pointing towards our field a little bit, and that garage my father built, because it wasn't attached to the house, it was separate. So he's pointing by that garage in the field, and in reality, where he's pointing, there's only a blackberry bush there. But in my dream, suddenly there's like a little wooden shack where he's pointing. And he's telling me, you need to go get somebody. You need to go get somebody. Get your mom. You need to see this. And I'm like, okay, I'll be right back. And like, I'm going through the party trying to find my mom, and I find her, and I'm like tugging at her sleeve, and I'm trying to get her attention, and she's not listening. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Yes, childhood me was like that. So I go out to the top of the deck. I swear, it's so fucking funny thinking about it now. I'm at the top of the stairs, and I just throw my hands up. I'm like, I guess I'm going. So I follow the dad into the shack, and I remember when the shack opened up, it was filled to the brim with all these antiques and old furniture and belongings, things that looked like they had been sitting there forever and were dusted. And it split into 2 rows, kind of like you were walking down a store almost, but it's like an old shack with all these things. And he went right, I went left, and I'm walking towards the back of the shack, and we both kind of meet up in the back. And in the back of the shack is an easel with a painting on it. And in the painting, it's a portrait of the whole family. It's him, his wife, and his 2 daughters in front of them. And that was it. And I told my mother about the dream, and she said that it kind of felt like a goodbye.
I do like that though. I like
Yeah.
like you said before, the final dream, of course. I like that it was a painting because you're an artist.
Like of all things, yeah.
It wasn't, I don't know.
Well, it was very
It wasn't them sitting in the living room, you know what I mean? It was literally a painting. So I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't have follow-up questions.
So you called it the final dream. So you never dreamed, sensed, saw any of the mom, dad, or the 2 little girls again?
No.
Do you think they were connected to like that specific place in Washington? Because since you haven't gone back to that place, could that be it as well?
That's what I was gonna ask. You did go back. Was there anything? Was there nothing?
Here's the thing. I went back in 2018 because I was up there to get my mother's hope chest, and I stopped by my childhood home, and I had a bunch of Kodak photographs that I brought with myself, and I had my best friend with me, and we knocked on the door, and a girl about our age answered, and I was like, hey, I know this is really weird, but I used to live in this home. Here are some pictures, to prove, that I used to live here when I was younger. And I was just wondering if it's all right with you, if I could just kind of see the house and what it looks like now and what you guys have done to it. And she had just her and her husband had only moved in 2 weeks prior to my showing up. And so I will say that like she was very nice in letting me see the house. I didn't get to see the basement, but she told me the basement had been renovated to accommodate her mother. So it was like an apartment down there now. And of course, obviously it makes total sense. You know, she's a woman home alone. She's not going to just let people wander all over her house and her strangers into the basement. I totally get
I've
it.
seen that happen so many times in movies. I'm like, do people do this in real life? Apparently they do.
She just let us like view the upper floor, and she was with us, obviously. And she'll never know how much that meant to me because everything happened so fast and it got like ripped away from me that I needed to see how different the house was. But I did not ask her like, hey, I wanted to be like, hey, so you experiencing like anything like, I don't know, a little weird? But she'd only been living there 2 weeks and I didn't want to freak her out. So, and I wish I'd
Especially
left
after
her
renovating the
contact
basement.
number. Like a contact number would have helped her out. But I forgot to do that because I was like too busy being emotional.
Well, yeah, that's a very emotional moment. I can only imagine. I mean, to go back just for a brief moment, I mean, you're kind of occupied.
It really set it apart seeing it in 2018 because I had moved off out of the house and off the island in 2005
Yeah.
and I hadn't been back to see that house. So, and it's a crazy thing because that the house is so ingrained in my mind that and it's like weird to say, or maybe it's like a little personal, but I'm pretty sure that my childhood home is like the subconscious depth of my brain. Like everything tracks back there. And that's like where I go in my head, especially when things are important. And like there's an episode of Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, actually, where she becomes catatonic at one point because like she's just like, I fucking had it. I'm tired. I'm traumatized. Like she goes in her head. And Willow has to use her magic to go into Buffy's head to pull her out. And when she goes into Buffy's head, she finds Buffy as a little girl with her family in her childhood home. And that's exactly what that feels like.
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense for both of you. It's emotional for me, not in the same sense. Once again, I do not have a childhood home. I have had moments that I go back with. I lived in the city for a really long period of time, and I see the certain changes. And there's probably I can name off the top of my head 3 different cities that I can do that with. And the times that I've gone back there, I've already gotten emotional, as in like so many changes. And that's a city, that's a plaza, that's a bench that I always just sit at reading my book, and it's not there, and now it's whatever, things like that. Let alone what a house could be. My childhood was completely different. It was a hell of a mess. But moving onward to what you were saying, because I know once again a lot more of your childhood, that makes perfect sense to have that deep connection to your house. Same goes for Dylan and this house, which is incredible that it's kind of full circle at the end of the day that we ended up living in this house for this period of time. Because originally we were going to live here that long, but COVID so kind of postponed everything basically. So we stayed here longer. We're staying here a little bit longer than we thought originally, but everything kind of does feel full circle in that moment. I don't think Dylan's going to have that possibility of going back into the like in 40 years time. I hope not. And like having somebody else live in the place, because it's your family house. Like this is going to be always in your
always in the family.
Exactly. So it's not going to be the same of like, I really doubt that it'll ever be sold.
Yeah. Sam, if I just gave you all the money in the world, would you buy your old house?
No. And that's not to say that the thought didn't cross my mind, but that would be, in my humblest opinion, unhealthy.
Yes, unhealthy as fuck. Yeah. And I don't really swear, and that's not a it's true for both things.
The desire to want to recreate your childhood
exactly
in any way
Yep.
Aside from, creating events for your children memories for them, that's different.
Yeah, that's
But
different.
like trying to recreate your childhood home or the way you experience your childhood, that is a trauma response. That is
yes.
you trying to still work through it as an adult. And I've done plenty of work on my own already, and I kind of had to, but I've done a lot. And seeing again the house in 2018 reminded me of how far removed I was from that point in time and from that place. I'm like, this isn't what's in my head. Like the childhood, like the house I see in my head, I have to recognize now is a past memory. It only exists in my head now. It doesn't exist in this space anymore. And so that helped me kind of continue to move forward with my life.
I couldn't have said it any better, because we were in the same realm, to say it in layman's terms, I guess, for our audience, before we get into more spiritual stuff. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing, everything that you've, of course, overcome. And of course we can be like, oh my god, it made us stronger and better and fighter and smarter. All that set aside for a quick hot second, not to that, it sort of props itself, obviously, but it's also a sense of what you said, just removal. And my favorite words this year and last year, and I'm going to repeat this, and Dylan's going to laugh again, of course, is, drumroll please, removing generational trauma.
7 hells.
And learning from it and those lessons and things like
Love
that.
that.
So
Love that for us.
Exactly. I feel like if you know me throughout this podcast, throughout my other podcasts, and throughout just in general, I talk about it a lot because it's really important, and also the lessons learned. So I love that answer without a doubt.
Thank you. Now, of course, I've talked a lot about the layout of the house and the way some things have played out, how the ghost announcement started. But I think maybe in our next episode, I'll tell you the funniest and the scariest story I have.
Yeah, please. Definitely. That's why this is a two-parter, because there's plenty more stories, of course, and we definitely wanted to finish this season and this segment that it's so dear to our hearts in the best way possible, in a very personal way, obviously, because you like that. So here we are. We have time for one more mini story from Dylan.
Okay.
Hit on Dylan.
All right. I'll end it on a nice note.
Okay.
This one was from my papa. My papa was my mom's dad, and him and me were just BFFs. Always, since the day I was born till the day he died, BFFs. He told me the story of, it was a long time ago. It was the night his mother died, and he was in the hospital, and his mother had just passed away. I think he said goodbye to her. So he goes down to the cafeteria, and he told me, he's like, so I go to the cafeteria. Obviously, I'm upset. He gets a cup of coffee, and he sits in front of the window, just thinking about his mom and, just that feeling of loss. And he's like, Dylan, I'm not lying. Like, no, you're not, Papa. He told me the story 1,000 times. But he goes, I'm sipping my coffee. I'm just looking out the window. And suddenly, I blink, and outside the window is my mother. She is standing on, I think, a pedestal. And she looks wonderful, healthy, vibrant. And she smiles at him. And she's like, I saw her the way I'm looking at you now. I blink and she's gone.
I'm so glad that was nice, because the second you said he sat down by the window, I was like, oh no, this is the movie Hereditary.
I've not seen Hereditary, so I don't get the joke, but thank you.
When you watch it, you'll know now, and you're gonna be like, oh god.
But I thought that was really cool.
That is very sweet.
That he got to see his mom one last time.
And vibrant, I feel like.
I'm an angel, bitch.
Peace out.
And with that note, tune back with us in 2 weeks, please, for more supernatural stories one more time this season.
Yeah, I'll get scarier with it.
Exactly. So let's do this thing. See you back. And as you know, we have two. What do we have the other Tuesday? What do we have? With Sam, me. Sorry.
Sammy, yeah, exactly.
Whoops.
We continue our quest for more true crime stories.
Exactly. So we'll be back as always. Until then, bye.
See ya.
Bye.